If you find that job, take it. Goodbye. Okay, I will and take the department with me, by user department killer. To keep it vague, my old company was a fairly large roughly $10 billion. I was a part of a very niche M&A shop that was typically the black sheep of the company. It felt like anything we did was just a hassle overall, and it wasn't really worth the company's time to entertain these acquisitions anymore. I was a part of the minuscule-sized deal team, 3 of us including myself, that closed over 60 deals per year, with 45 to 50 active deals at one time. Typically, each deal took about 4 to 9 months from start to finish, depending on the seller's competence level and organization. This was my first job out of college. I knew the career path I wanted to take was going to require long hours and no vacations, but typically in finance the salary will reflect that commitment. Well, for this job I was making $52K/year working 80 HR weeks, $12.50 an hour gross pay. After my first full year, I went to the VP of the department and requested a 20% raise. I was told the basic inflation spiel, and got a 2% cost of living adjustment. I think it's important to note here that after I left this company, I found out the same VP received a $2 million bonus. Fast forward a couple of months. Every year, the company has a meeting where the entire company, 300 ISH people, meets at a hotel. They do this to give updates as to what the company has done so far, where they are going, and for team building of course. In reality, this was a multi-million-dollar event to pat the backs of the executives that really don't do much in reality. As a part of this event, anyone in the company is allowed to send in anonymized questions to the CEO, and he will read/respond to it if he thinks it's something worth talking about. Just before this company event, 5 people had resigned from other departments in the company. Every one of them almost doubled their salaries at their new jobs. So I decided to ask the question, how do you plan to retain talent when there are other companies offering 2x the money with half of the workload? The CEO decided this question was hilarious and read it aloud laughing and responded, if you find that job, with finger quotes as if it wasn't real, you better take it, goodbye. After being treated pretty terribly the last 1.5 years, including missing my grandfather's 88th birthday party due to a last-second PowerPoint that ended up not even being used, I decided that was the final nail in the coffin. I spoke with one of the recently resigned co-workers about his new company, and soon after a recruiter from his company reached out to me. I go through the interview process and get the job. I more than doubled my pay when taking the 20% end-of-year bonus into account, and I even got a 10K signing bonus. The story doesn't end here. As I gave notice to my wonderful manager who taught me everything I know, she first told me she hates me because she is going to have to take over my 19 current deals. But then, shockingly, she confides that after 7 years of working at the company she is ready to move to greener pastures as well. I decided to call the recruiter that reached out to me originally and ask if there are any other positions open at my new company. She says yes, they interview her and she gets the job as well a month later. 2 down, 1 to go. The final coworker standing was not hard to convince as he saw 52 deals suddenly pile onto his desk while he was already underwater doing the same 80 HR weeks as I did. I worked with him to spruce up his resume, and get the wheels turning. After 2 interviews, he was given a verbal job offer with an in-writing letter expected the next week. All said and done, all 3 of us ended up doubling our old salaries. The old company is now scrambling to replace us, with over $100 million worth of deals that will grind to a halt when my last coworker makes his departure. My new gig does not feel like real life. I have a fantastic boss that respects my time outside of the office, to the point that he gave me 2 weeks in between jobs to unwind after my previous role. My workload is 30% of what I used to do, as well. My old manager got the same 2-week treatment, and is currently enjoying her time off and will start in the middle of October. If I was only given that 20% raise. Edit, thanks to you/shoulder chip for the grammar edits, I typed this all out on my phone at 4 AM waiting for a flight. Yell at me for delivering? Well, time to get some exercise, by user Nielsen. Some years ago I was driving pickups and deliveries, P&D, for a trucking company in Denmark. P&D is the part of the transport chain where you usually deliver small quantities to multiple customers on a route, kind of like UPS or FedEx but in semis or rigid/box trucks. It was nearing the end of the day and I had to deliver a trampoline to a residential area, mind you this in EU, so things may be a bit different than in the US regarding rules and regulations. It was a fairly new area with plenty of space, but I had to reverse in cause there was no way of turning around. But no problem, the road was wide and so were the corners I had to go around. I put my semi in reverse and started going backwards, and of course I was delivering to the last house on the street. Now the road climbed a bit and was about 600 or 700 meters long, but it all went fine. When I finally got to the end of the road and got out of my truck to unload this trampoline, some guy was already standing behind my truck and started yelling and swearing at me. I was the biggest idiot on this earth. How the hell could I even think of going in there with a semi? I could have run over all the kids in the neighborhood. No one was out. I had absolutely no valid reason for being there and could get the hell out of there right away. Instead of starting an argument with person, I calmly asked him where he lived. He pointed at the house and said number 74, and lo and behold, where was I delivering? You guessed it, number 74. So I, again very calmly, told this man. Well, in that case I have a trampoline for you. Oh, the man said, well, I would like if you could. But I interrupted, since I have no business being in here with a semi, I will be waiting for you at the end of the road, and pointed to the direction I just came from. Mind you, this is the big model weighing about 130 pounds, so you might want to bring a wheelbarrow. The joy it was seeing him coming all the way down the road with his wheelbarrow. And then trying to get this 130-pound trampoline up in the wheelbarrow and starting his long heavy walk 700 meters up to his house again. Priceless. Edit, spelling errors. I'm in touch with somebody else that works here, I don't need your help, okay, by user farm mediocre. I work some certain live events, and a lot of my work is making sure crew members and staff receive a credential to be allowed past security. Back in February for a huge event, I spent one morning going back and forth from our remote office to the security gates when I would get word of the next employee coming up. As I stood there waiting, a person on our staff I didn't know showed up. Security tells him he can't get in without a credential. Being in charge of credential access, I nicely asked the man, are you here with company name? Yes, but I don't need your help. I'm in touch with other employee who I'm sitting next to at the office downstairs. Oh, okay. I say back. He was just too good for me to talk to him. He thought he was better than me. So I decided not to ever look at him or deal with him again. As he stands at security, I end up going back and forth about 5 times to let other employees in with the credentials in my hand. At this point, he is fuming and wants to ask me for help, but it was way more fun to tell him he just needs to talk to girl whose desk is next to mine. She was in a meeting for another hour. No, that is not a company spot, that is my spot, by user Carl Duelendout. When I started at my new company, we had used all assigned parking spots in the adjacent parking garage, and I was given a spot in a building a couple of blocks away. When I got in early one morning and had to be let in by security as the building was not yet unlocked, I talked with the security guard briefly, and this started a bit of a friendship. After a week or so he asked why I always came through the front door, instead of through the parking garage, and I explained my situation. He ended up giving me one of the extra spots that was assigned to the security staff. I was only allowed to park there Monday-Thursday as they needed the spot for cleaning crews on Friday. This spot is only about 20 feet from the pedestrian bridge to the building, so it is a pretty nice setup. We also have 2 company visitor spots in the same adjacent lot, however they are on the top floor, along with the rest of the spots assigned to our company, exposed to the sun, and require walking down 3 flights to get to the pedestrian bridge. We have had a senior engineer visiting from a different office for the last 2 weeks, parking in the visitor's spot. On Tuesday we went to our cars together, and he saw where I was parked. Well, when I got to work yesterday, he was already in my parking spot. I headed up to one of the visitor spots, and let him know that he needed to move his vehicle out of my spot, or his car might be towed. We are right downtown and have many people who park in this garage without permission. He told me that it was fine, don't worry about it, it was a company parking spot, and that could just stay in the visitor's spot. I told him that I really did not think that was a good idea, and tried to explain, but he brushed me off. I followed up with an email letting him know that the spot was not leased by our company, but that I just had permission to park there until a spot opened in the garage. I parked in my assigned spot in the other parking garage. Boss man does not like non-visitors parking in the visitor's spot, so I was not about to stay there, and didn't worry about it, just like I was told. Well, come lunchtime, senior engineer comes storming back into the office. Apparently, security guard saw that the vehicle parked in my spot was not my shitty Civic, but rather a Tesla, and decided to have the vehicle towed. Not exactly sure what came of this, and I bet I will find out later today, but I am happy that I sent the CYA email as senior engineer outranks me by a considerable margin, and I do not need someone thinking that I left him high and dry out of spite. I should note that while we have spots assigned to our company, each vehicle gets assigned its own spot. Occasionally we will have people park in our assigned spots, and security will call our office to confirm if this is someone we are allowing to park there, or if this is someone parking improperly. So if it had been a company spot, senior engineer's assumption would have been correct. We got no such call, and security guard does not have my personal number. Update. Not the satisfying update I was hoping for at all. Apparently senior engineer called and complained to building management. He explained the situation, and it turns out that security did not have the authority to allow me to park in this spot. Sounds like security guard got chewed out, and I am really hoping this did not impact his job. I lost my parking in the close garage. Boss man is not upset with me, which is the only good thing about this. Senior engineer was bitching to anyone who would listen. He is such a victim. No idea who had to pay tow fees, but I am pretty confident that senior engineer did not. Update 2. I was able to speak with security guard on my way to lunch today. Apparently his boss did not chew him out, and I guess that was passed on to senior douchebag to appease him. Yes, security guard was told that he could not give out the spot, but that was it. He was quite surprised when I told him what I had heard. Can't expense my bike rides home? Okay, then I'll take very expensive Ubers instead, by user cycling Frenchie. I have recently started a new job, and one of the perks is that if you work late, you can have a free dinner and then take an Uber back home. However, I much prefer renting an electric bike back home, you know, the ones on the sidewalk. It's faster, much better for the environment, fun, and a great way to decompress after a long days of work. After a month of that, I send my expense report, but they refuse to pay back the bike rides, saying I need to use Uber. This annoyed me as if it was more than £100, so I decided to use an Uber for the following month, making sure to choose exec each time. Next month, my late night ride expenses increased by almost 5x. Needless to say, they strongly encouraged me to get back on the bike and offered to buy me a subscription if available. Unfortunately it's not.